Okay, and welcome to today's video on graphing equations of lines. So we're graphing linear equations. This is from your homework worksheet 2.3. I'm going to do 3 problems starting with number 1. Number 1 says find the slope and y-intercept. Well, if we know about equations of lines, we know about the different forms of equations of lines, this shouldn't be too hard. If we have something that's in y equals mx plus b form, or the slope-intercept form, we can easily tell the slope and the y-intercept. Y-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where my m is my slope and my b is my y-intercept. Okay, so let's check first to see if this equation is in this form, and if not, could we put it into the form y equals mx plus b? It is, my equation is in the form y equals mx plus b, so my slope and y-intercept should be really easy to identify. My slope would be my m, and in this equation my m is -6. And my y-intercept will be my b, which in this equation is also -6. Make sure that you include any negatives, especially when you're talking about b. That can be confusing. But that equation, as long as it's in slope-intercept form, should be no problem. If not, you need to put it into slope-intercept form by solving for y. Okay, next problem says find the x and y intercepts of the line with the given equation. So here I have an equation in slope-intercept form, y equals 3/5 x plus 5. In class, we talked about finding x and y intercepts by plugging in 0 for the opposite of the desired variable. So for example, let's start by finding the x-intercept. So if I want to find the x-intercept, I have to plug in 0 for y. So I'm going to rewrite my equation first. Y equals 3/5 x plus 5. And then I'm going to solve for the x-intercept by putting in 0 for y. 0 equals 3/5 x plus 5. And I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 5 from each side to get the x or the variable term alone. That gives me -5. On this side, this is 0, so I'm just left with 3/5 x. And now I need to solve for x. I remember from our discussions in class that to divide by a fraction is the same as multiplying the right with the reciprocal. So I am going to multiply both sides of this equation by 5/3. On this side, 3/5 times 5/3 is 1, so on my left is 1x, or just x. And on this side of the equation, I have 5 times 5, which is -5, which is -25. And then I can always think about this -5 being over 1, so 3 times 1 is just 3. So here, my x-intercept is -25/3. My y-intercept, I can do the same. Y equals 3/5, so let's just delete that last part. 3/5 x plus 5. And I'm going to plug in now 0 for x. So y equals 3/5 times 0 plus 5. Well, 3/5 times 0 is just 0, so y equals 5. And you might say to yourself, well, Mrs. Herrera, I know that because I know if I have something in y equals mx plus b form, the b is always my y-intercept. And you're right, you wouldn't have to go through the process of plugging in 0 if it's already in that form to find your y-intercept. But it's good to know that if you didn't, you could plug in 0. If you didn't have it in the y equals mx plus b form, you could just plug in 0 and easily find your y-intercept. So we cannot just leave it like this, x equals -25/3 and y equals 5, because that's only for the instance when x is 0. So we want to rewrite this again as that our x-intercept is negative 25 thirds. Because it's not that x equals that. X only equals that when y is 0. And our y-intercept, and that's the definition of intercept, is just 5. And here we have our final answer. Okay, last problem I'm going to do is number 13, graphing the equation. So there are two ways that I could approach this. I could graph the equation by finding the intercepts and graphing the intercepts and then drawing a line through those two. And that, remember that to draw a line, oops, let's go back. To draw a line, we only need 2 points. So that would work, the y-intercept and the x-intercept. The other thing I could do is simply use my slope and my y-intercept. I'm going to do that. So we have y equals mx plus b. My m here is negative 9/2. And my b is 4. So when graphing something that's in y equals mx plus b form, or slope-intercept form, I'm going to start with my y-intercept and then use my slope to create other points on the graph. So let's go ahead and start that. I'm going to graph my y-intercept, which is always on the y-axis, by putting a point at 4. Because my y-intercept is the point 0, 4. Then I'm going to use my slope. My slope is negative 9/2. So that tells me to go down 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then over to the right 2. 1, 2. Remember that when you have a negative slope, it should be downward sloping. So let's check when I connect those 2 points, do I have a downward sloping line? So let me get out my line tool here. Okay. And I'm going to adjust my line. So that it goes through the 2 points. Notice that my line has arrows at the end because I only graphed 2 points on this line, but there are an infinite amount of points just on the graph part shown. But even if I were to extend the graph, so I want to show that it goes on and on by putting those arrows on. I do have a downward sloping line, so I know my slope being negative, that was correct. If you have any other questions about this homework or anything else that's going on in class, please see me or Mr. Daniels. Have a great day.